Hi, I'm Susan, one of the docents here at Lincoln Park Conservatory. Unfortunately, you can't visit us right now, so we thought we would take you on a small tour and show you some of our favorite plants. This is the Calabash Tree, and it's a really interesting tree. One of the things I really like about this is how the flowers and the fruit grow directly from the main branch or from some of these other branches, rather than growing on twigs like we usually see with fruiting trees. This is native to the tropical Americas, and you can see we get these big, beautiful green gourds, which are pretty heavy, that are hanging off of the branches. Now, these are not things that you can eat, but what they do instead is they will dry them out, and they can make etchings on the side of the fruit, and you can see how beautifully it dries. You have this gorgeous decorative object. You can also store things in here. You might want to put a little bit of water in here or something hot to drink. You could put dried peas or vegetables in here, close this up and shake it and use it as a maraca. Another instrument that it's used as, they will cut the gourd in half this way, vertically, and attach it to a pole and a string, and it's a resonator, so it makes the sound of the music louder so people can hear it. And that's used in a lot of Afro-Brazilian folk music out of Brazil. This is also being investigated for medicinal properties. Researchers think it might have some potential cancer treatment uses. This is another one of my favorite trees because it's a jasmine tree. And first of all, it's really pretty, has a beautiful trunk with this gorgeous twisty look to it. Dark green leaves, and it has beautiful flowers, these white flowers, but what's most special about it is the scent. So I'm going to take off my mask for just a second. And inhale a wonderful jasmine scent like you would get out of jasmine tea. But this is not used for jasmine tea. You can sometimes buy these. I have one that I bought at Trader Joe's, and the cool thing about it is when you trim off where the flowers were, you'll get little tendrils that grow up in spirals, and it's just gorgeous. Instead of pruning it, I'm attaching mine to little sticks from my old orchid plants, so I have a gorgeous little, almost like an ethereal stems and leaves and vines growing in my home. And I'm hoping it blooms again so I can get that wonderful aroma. One of the first things people see when they come to the conservatory is this tree. This is called the sausage tree. And if you look at the fruits hanging down, you can understand why we called it the sausage tree. Its official name is Cagela africana, and this grows in Africa. It is usually on open plains or woodlands where it's pretty sparse kinds of other trees around it. And people always ask me, can you eat the fruit? You can if you very carefully prepare it. You would have to roast it, and you can use the rind to help with fermentation process to make certain kinds of beer, but it's really not something that most people are going to want to eat. It is eaten quite a bit by large land mammals like elephants or giraffes who will eat it, and we're going to show you one of the big fruits here. You can see how big it is. You can't tell how heavy it is from just looking at it, but it's really dense and quite heavy. In fact, the reason why we have so many of these here on the floor is because if we left them on the branches, the weight of it could be so heavy that it would pull the branch off the tree, pull it down and break it. Also, we really wouldn't want a visitor to come here and have one of them that's getting ready to fall down and hit anybody on the head. One of the coolest things about this plant is if you're able to be here in the spring is to watch it flower. There's beautiful magenta whitish flowers that will grow out, and they will grow from these long vine-like structures. And if they are successfully fertilized, they'll turn into the fruit. Now, when you're in Africa, the flowers will emit an aroma mainly at night that will attract its main pollinator, which are bats. But we do not have bats here at the conservatory. So instead, our staff will go gather the pollen, bring it to Milwaukee, where the Milwaukee Conservatory also has a sausage tree, and they will hand pollinate the flowers of that tree. And they will bring pollen back from Milwaukee to pollinate this tree. Now, unfortunately, this year we weren't able to do that, so we might not have fruit this year, but we have plenty of fruit from prior years, and next spring we should be able to pollinate again. So again, this is a sausage tree, and it's really a lot of fun to look at. Here's a picture of the tree when you have some of the flowers growing. You can see here these beautiful pinkish flowers, and you can see some of these very small sausages that are starting to grow. You can see some of the buds early on, how pretty they are. And I'm also going to show you another photo which has some beautiful, you can see how beautiful all these flowers are when you get them together, with a lot of the purplish and greenish. And you can see here the stamens where the pollen will come in here, and that's what they will gather up. They're really beautiful to see. This is the Buddha's hand citron tree, a really unusual tree as well. The Buddha's hand citron is one of the oldest varieties of citrus trees. It originally came from China, and it was really considered, if you gave someone one of the fruits, it was a gift. It's symbolic of good life and good luck, and it was brought as presents for royalty. Now, you can see what's really interesting is the fruit itself. It doesn't look like a regular lemon. It's got these fingers-like structures coming from the top, and they start pretty tightly bunched, but will eventually spread out. So one person said they kind of look like a calamari when they grow out, because they've got a much more spread out little finger-like things there. You can see why they call it the Buddha's hand. The other thing that we have, which is interesting about this, is there is no pulp inside of this fruit. If you cut it in half, you will see it is all rind and pith and no juice. So this is not something that you're going to be able to use to make lemonade out of it. But it's really good to use to infuse alcohol. So I'm sure you've all heard of like an Absolute Citron or other kinds of citrus flavored alcohols. You can take the rind of this, put it in a bottle of vodka or gin, and let it sit for a couple of weeks, and you will have something like a cordial that you can use in your other drinks. It also can be candied. I'm sure you all have had fruit cakes before that have candied citron or candied lemon peel. You would get something similar here. It can also be used as part of a potpourri to scent things well. And in fact, some people say one of the reasons why early travelers carried it is because they could put it in their bags and would deodorize the smell of their clothes, which they weren't able to wash that frequently. So it's kind of can have a scent. If you rub the leaves, they'll smell a little bit like a citronella candle. So it's a very similar type of fragrance. The flowers here are really pretty. I think we have one in bloom over here. And frequently we'll have a lot of the flowers coming out, but I have to say I've never seen this many fruits on the Buddha's hand citron tree, and it's really wonderful to see how productive it's being this year. This is a sago palm. We call it a sago palm because it looks like a palm tree, but it's not a palm tree. It's a cycad. Cycads are some of the oldest trees that we have. They were around at the time of the dinosaurs, 280 million years ago. And they were found on every continent. And even today, scientists who are exploring will sometimes find fossils from these trees. So some people will call it the fossil tree. This one is very old. We got this tree when the conservatory opened in about 1895. So we're thinking this one is over 200 years old. These do not grow that quickly, which is good, because if this grew quickly, it would bust through the roof. And it's already growing pretty fast up there. One of the interesting things about this kind of tree, it's a dioecious tree, which means some trees have male reproductive organs and some have female. Now you can see here the male organ on this tree, They're usually cylindrical shaped. They look a little bit like a zucchini or a gourd. The female reproductive organs are more globe shaped. So they will look significantly different from these. When the female is ready to be pollinated, the flower will open up and pollen will be there, and normally what will happen is that the wind will carry the pollen, or sometimes insects will carry the pollen from one tree to another so that they get fertilized. Now if you try to eat the palm or any of the branches from the palm, they're poisonous as they are. It's a very acidic tree, and also with a lot of tannin, so you can't eat it. But in Japan, apparently, there are some people who live on a very small island, and during World War I and World War II, in times of starvation, they learned how to process the tree so that they could actually eat it. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks with a lot of different steps to do it. There are still a few people on this island who practice it, but they said they are not teaching the younger generation because it's very easy to get food now, and it takes too much work to process this so it's edible. However, in World War II, when the people were starving, it was a source of food, kind of like a taro. It had a lot of carbohydrates and some protein that was able to save them from starvation. So hopefully this one won't get too much taller. I know that we do trim it sometimes. It's really special to see something this old that's growing indoors, and quite unusual.